Good evening. Evening. How is everybody this evening? Hopefully everybody's at work getting that check. I am on momentarily just to talk about the benefits of working with opal glitters. You were a gangster graffiti artist. I like graffiti. I actually wanted I'm originally from Chicago, so you know we're big on graffiti up there. I wanted some Chicago graffiti on a cup of mine so I can epoxy it. But we are going to talk about the benefits of working with an opal glitter. I'm going to pop it open so I can show you what it looks like before we get started. But it's amazing. This is a storyboard. No, I don't sell these storyboards. These storyboards are sold by Hog. This is one of the Storyboard cups, tumblers. And we are going to be using some opal glitters on it. Opal is kind of like an iridescent glitter. There's a lot of different glitters out there. I know a lot of newbies don't understand what the difference of an opal or a fine or a holographic or what have you. But the way the opal works is opal reflects off the base of your cup. See, kind of like how I have my cup. I've got my cup multiple different colors. I've got the pink. I've got the purple. What I did is I just spray painted the whole cup pink. So that's the reason why you got multiple layers of pink. But I've got the pink, I've got the blue, in which I didn't care for the blue the way that it came out of the can. But it'll be okay because it'll be covered up. Then we've got another layer of pink. Then we've got purple. So it's got multiple different colors that's going to be on it. And the whole purpose of the opal glitter is going to intensify the colors that's on the cup. So it's going to bring out the colors of the cup, and it's going to look freaking amazing. It's going to look really good. Typically, opal glitter has a bit of, I don't know if you can see it. It's really dark in here. Of this effect. It's kind of like a rainbow looking color. It's what the opal originally or intentionally looks like. So what we're going to be doing, there we go, that's a little bit better. Bam, right there. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting opal onto this cup, and it's going to look freaking amazing. It's going to look like you actually put time and attention into this cup when you really have it. It's just a simple spray paint the base of your cup. I based it white first, simply because that's just the way I like to base all my cups. And then after I base it white, I go back and add whatever colors I want to add into it. And in this case, I have these colors, which are the colors that I told you about a bit earlier. And we're going to be doing the epoxy method on this cup. So I've already mixed my epoxy. Just a basic torch. If you just sit your epoxy down, then your bubbles will eventually come to the top, and you just hit it really lightly and then end up popping them, and it just keeps bringing it back up. So if you got time for that, that's perfectly fine when it's a top coat. But right now, personally, it's not that serious because this is just a base coat, and you're going to be putting glitter on top of it, so it doesn't necessarily have to be like perfect, just as long as it works for you at the end of the day, because you're going to be covering up. Now, mind you that if you're going to be working with the Storyboard cups, you don't want to get it really thick where the cup meets up top, and you always want to make sure that you cover your base on the bottom of it for your Storyboard cup. If you don't know what a Storyboard is, I think somebody's made a few of them onto the page. I made one, but I didn't finish it, but this one I do need to get finished. So I've already got my turner on, so the turner's going. You always want to have the turner on whenever you're doing the epoxy method, because you don't want to do layers, like put a layer of epoxy here, then turn around and put your glitter down, then put another layer, because it's going to become uneven. So best thing to do is just turn it on and just let it go. I like to work from the bottom and work my way up. I have the fan on, in which I know I shouldn't have it on because it ended up drying the epoxy a lot quicker than what you really want. This video will stay up for those who need a rewatch of the video. Very, 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 very thin of amount of epoxy. I know I mixed up a lot of epoxies, but I always keep my molds nearby, in which I found that when you're making cups for people and you make them a keychain or whatever the case it is, and you know, of course, anything for free they like. So yeah. So we're just doing a really, 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 really thin coat of epoxy, especially on these storyboards. You don't want to do too much on them. Turn the turner off so I can work with it a bit better, get it on here real quick, because I know the AC is going to kill me here. I mean, I'm sorry, my fan is going to kill me in here in just a second. I'm going to switch this out so you can see it a little bit better too. The cord on that turner is extremely short. So I'm going to switch it over to this turner, which the cord is a lot longer. There we go. Hey, Don. Tag everybody, Don. You know how this works. All right, so now that's a little bit better. You couldn't get your storyboard to seal at the bottom. I didn't care for the E6000 when I tried, although I taped off my top and I taped off my bottom. I don't know if you can really see it, but the top is taped off too, because I want to keep that silver intact. I will go over on how I'm going to seal mine. This is going to be a two-part. I'm going to try to get the water slides out of the way from my glow-in-the-dark cup. I'm really not using a lot of epoxy, although it may look like it, but I'm really not using a lot of epoxy. You don't want to stack on the epoxy on these cups, because the chunky glitters of course, it's chunky, and you don't want it to get caught up beneath the base of your cup up here, but you do want to make sure that you do at least cover your bases on the top up there. So I just stick my brush beneath it and just bring the epoxy back out. And opal glitter is a chunky glitter, so for you guys that don't know how to do the chunky glitter with the epoxy method, I guess today would be your lucky day, because that's what we're going to be doing. It's not a real big chunky, but it's bigger than an extra fine. I know when I first started, I liked the extra fine glitter because it was easier to work with. But when it came to that chunky, man, I was like, that just is not going to work for me. I always go back, because I've got the cut tip brush with the little cup in it, the cut in it. I go back and just scrape off just a little bit and just go back over and just re-smear it all out, because you never want to put a lot of epoxy on it. On the chunky, I don't think it will be a problem, but you don't want to coat it too thick on the storyboard, because of course, you know, you got a second piece to put on the storyboard and you don't want to mess that up. The bottom of it really doesn't matter when it comes to the base of it down here, because you won't be able to see it. The only thing you'll be able to see is just the casing in here. So now that I've got me a really, really decent coat of epoxy on it, I'm going to switch out my paper. And yes, Chris, I didn't put it on the table. I have my little mat over here, FYI. This is my mold that I use. I made a cup early, I guess, today that was black. So I'm just going to add some holographic, I think this is Papa Smurf, directly into the epoxy and stir it up a little bit. And just dump the remainder of my epoxy into my mold. I know I made too much, but I need to finish up this mold. Mr. Bonaparte, how are you, sir? So whenever you're doing your molds, or if you do molds and you put your epoxy, your glitter straight into your epoxy, always make sure you want to mix it really, really good, because you don't want clumps of it in there. And just pretty much dump it in. and let it do its thing. You never want to waste epoxy. I mean, if you got a mold sitting around, pull that mold out, use that mold. If you don't have a mold, my suggestion is to just buy a mold, because you can always just put your unused resin in it, make little gift gadgets, keychains, whatever it is you're going to be making. You can sell it additionally. You can add it on as an add-on for whoever it is you're selling this to, and say, hey, you know, I've got this, if you want to put it together, you know, $5-10 extra, or you can just put it in the cost of it. Always mix yourself just a hair bit more epoxy, because you never know if you're going to have to use it or whatever. You never know what you're going to need it for, and it's always safe to be on the, it's always good to be on the safe side when it comes to it, because you don't want to have to turn around and stop what you're doing and turn around and mix more epoxy, because I always fail at that. So now that I have it, I'm just going to take the iridescent glitter. I'm sorry, the opal glitter. Ours is Glass Slippers, the name of this one. It is easy. You have on my shakers, I've got two different ones that I sell on my website. I've got the dump and the shake. With this, I'm going to use the dump for the bigger side of it. You really don't lose a lot of glitter when it comes to doing the epoxy method, because the epoxy is only going to take what the epoxy need, and whatever the epoxy doesn't need is just going to spit it out, or it's just going to drop off. So typically you don't get the wet epoxy on the inside, or the wet epoxy, or the glitter. Once the glitter touches the epoxy, you don't get the wet glitter that drops back into your save pile onto the mat that's on the bottom, because the glitter or the epoxy is only going to take whatever it needs from the glitter. So I know a lot of people are worried about, oh, well, you know, if I dump my good glitter onto the epoxy cup, then whatever you have as your residue that's going to be on the mat, you just have to throw it away, but you don't have to throw it away. I did spray paint the base of it in order to get the colors that I needed, only because I was going to be using the opal glitters, Joanna. Pretty much whatever color you want your opals to be is the color that you need to spray paint your cup. Sharonda, don't start me. Don't start me today. We're going to have a good day today. A real good day today. So once you get it on there, and like I told you the other day, a lot of people, they have a bad problem with bumping their turner in order to try to knock off the excess glitter. You never want to bump your turner. Let me see if I can get a better picture of it. You never want to bump your turner, because if you end up bumping your turner, then you end up causing problems for your turner, in which that's not what you want. I'm sorry, Sharonda. What was the question that you asked that I completely ignored? Although it looked like it did a pretty good job, I'm going to go back over it just one more time, because that's just me, to make sure that I got all the epoxy, or all the epoxy covered. When you're doing this method, you're whether you're using the opal glitter or whatever kind of glitter that you're going to be using, that's iridescent glitter or whatever the case it is, because you've already painted your base, whatever color you want. Sometimes it's hard to see what spots you missed. So I'm just going back over it one more time. You can see the multi-colors. Unfortunately, you can't see it because it's kind of dark in here. But I will give it a little bit of light here in just a second, so you can see what it looks like on my side. All right, so what glitter are you using? Do you sell it? Love it? Yes, this glitter is available. It's called Glass Slipper. It's on the Wifey Made website. This is the Glass Slipper. Don't get it confused with, I think we have a Purple Rain also. That's an opal color that's very similar to it. I'm glad to be back, Courtney. I feel like it's been forever. Alright, so now that we've got our glitter on there, because this isn't chunky glitter, but it is a little bit bigger. Anytime you're working with the epoxy method, you always want to pat down the glitter. Typically what I like to do is I like to let it sit, and then once it get tacky, then I come back and then I pat it down. It's a sexy cup. I wish wifey was making it so I can say it's dope as fuck. See, that's the reason why we don't get along. This color is sold by us. It's called glass slipper, but please don't be confused that the colors of the actual glitter is kind of like an opal chunky glitter. So it's kind of like a see-through color, but it enunciates the colors of the base of the cup. So you have to remember that the base of the cup is actually what you're seeing, and the glitter just brings it out. So it's not, the glitter isn't this color, FYI. You have to spray paint your base this color in order to get this glitter to bring it out. But anytime you're working with chunky glitter, you always want to pat that glitter down. I typically wait about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. Or in this case, because we're using the epoxy method, I'd probably come back in about 15, 20 minutes, because at that point, that's when it starts to get tacky in order to push the glitter down, because you don't want chunks of it standing up. Although this is going to be a snow globe, it really doesn't matter. I'd rather stick it up or not, because you won't be able to see it. But if you're going to be putting SVGs, or if you're going to be putting whatever it is you're going to be putting on top of the vinyl, then you want to make sure that you get it pat down, because if not, then it's going to be sticking up. What is the base color that you use? And I'll show you the base of ones that I use. It doesn't necessarily have to be the colors that I use. You can use pretty much whatever colors you want. I think I use like a lilac blue, blossom pink, and a soft purple. The Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 is the one that I've always used. I think I got one of them in here. The rest of them are outside. I used the Satin Aqua, the Rust-Oleum 2-in-1. And I use the Satin French Lilac. I always like the Rust-Oleum, the 2-in-1. To me personally, it's got the paint and the primer, so it primes and paint your cup at the same time, so it gives it a really fresh, nice looking base. So these are the ones that I would prefer using. I think all of mine is a 2-in-1. All my paint is basically a flat black, but my wife somehow likes the matte black, so she buys the matte black. But I like the flat black, because the flat paint, because it works a lot better, unless you're going to be using it with the opal glitter, the iridescent glitter, the chunky the chunky crystal glitter, or whatever the case it is. So it's not the color of the glitter that's giving you this, FYI. It's the paint that's giving you this. So please don't be confused. I'll tag the link in just a second. There you go. Wifey Made Custom is the name of the website. This tumbler is a hog tumbler. I don't have these tumblers, but mind you, if this is your first time doing a tumbler, then this isn't the tumbler that you want to do, because this tumbler, even for me, is hard. Even for people who's been in this game for a lot longer than I have, this tumbler is not an easy tumbler to make, because it's a 3-part tumbler. You have to base the tumbler, then once you base the tumbler, then you have to coat the tumbler, then once you coat it, you have to put the dome on top of the storyboard. You have to put the dome on top of it, then you have to seal the top, then you have to seal the bottom. So to be honest, this isn't one that I would start on just to be started on, but it does give it an awesome, amazing effect. I have another storyboard up there, and the next storyboard that I'm going to be working on is going to be a Christmas themed storyboard cup. So now that I have the base of it on there, what I'm going to do, the bottom is fine, but I'm going to end up taking off my top that I have on the top. It is a storyboard cup, yes. I have tape on the top of the cup because I wanted to preserve the silver rim. And you don't want to leave your tape on there once you add the epoxy, because if you do leave the tape on there while you're adding the epoxy, then the tape is probably going to get stuck beneath the epoxy, and then you're going to have a real problem where you can't get the tape off, and then you have to improvise in order to keep the tape on there. So what I do is I just go ahead and pull mine off. Now, on the bottom of it, I've got tape on the bottom of it here, but there's no epoxy on there, so it's not going to hurt it. So I'm going to let this sit probably for about maybe 30 minutes. Then after the 30 minutes, I'm going to come back down. I'm going to pat it back down again. I'm going to show you what it looks like here really quick. Hopefully you can see what it looks like. Oh, I have a light too. I don't know if you can. There you go. Maybe that's a bit better. Where you can see it's kind of turning colors. There we go. Maybe that's better. So once again, it's not the glitter that's giving you this effect. The glitter is highlighting the effect. The actual color of the cup itself is the color that you base the cup. Whether you spray paint the cup, whatever colors you want to spray paint the cup, that's the color that you're actually seeing. And with the glass slipper on top of it, it's only intensifying the color of the glitter. That gives it that nice multicolor effect, but it makes it look really, really nice. So that's the basis of how and what the opal glitter, or how you work the opal glitter, or if you do have our chunky crystal glitter line, it works the same way. This one is one I just wanted to pop on and do for you really quick. I don't think I have enough time to do the chunky crystal. I have to work tonight and I have to work tomorrow, but tomorrow evening I will come back with the finishing of this. And I don't know how many people watched the glow in the dark cut that we did on yesterday too, but I'll be doing that too. Would a border collie like red work for the undercoat too? Whatever color you want to put. You can put purple, you can put pink, you can put black, you can put red, you can put, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's up to you. Whatever color you want. It's just that the opal glitter is going to intensify the base of it, so it's going to actually bring it out and make it look like this cup looks. But a lot of people, that glitter looks good. And then when they get the glitter and they use the glitter, they be like, this isn't what I wanted. I think you sent me the wrong glitter. My cup doesn't look like your cup. So I just figured it was best for me to just take out a little bit of time and make it happen. Tell your wifey you have cups to make. You'll see them when you're done. Don't know if the opal has a color tint. It has a slight color tint to it. It's got a slight color tint to it. It's kind of like a multicolored rainbow looking color is what it looks like. Can you see it? So it has its own kind of color effect to it, but it's when you add it to the tumbler that you get that amazing color to it. So it's got its own colors to it that it kind of offsets it a little bit, but I think it helps intensifies it. The brand of epoxy that my wife uses is the FX or the Fox Rizzle. So many people say it so many different ways, but this is what she uses. So I ended up using, but typically when I'm doing my base, I use the little cheap shit that you get from Walmart, because you're not gonna be putting your lip on top of it. I use the really cheap epoxy when I'm just using the epoxy as a base in order to cover the top, in order to coat the glitter. So if I'm doing the epoxy method, I always use the really cheap stuff, because you don't want to use your good stuff because you don't even get to see it. It's just primarily the base of it. So don't go out spending a ton of money. Just use the epoxy method. We got like 3 or 4 different kinds of epoxy that we use just for that specific purpose. I've used blues, I use reds, I think I got one over there, blacks, pinks. We were just working on it to see what it looks like, and it actually looked pretty good. And the remainder of the epoxy that we use, you just throw in a mold and just let it have at it. I agree, Courtney. Always have a mold on standby in order to throw your extra epoxy in, because you never want to toss epoxy. You always want to preserve your epoxy because epoxy costs so much money. Sneaking to watch it work. Hey, Irish. I will post that link into the bottom of it here in just a second. When wife get home, she will actually get it packed up. So if you order today, it'll actually go out in the morning. If I had time to pack it today, then I would. But wifey does all that. I'm not allowed to touch it. I'm actually half-ass colorblind, so I don't like packing glitter because all the colors look the same to me unless she's got it written out and I know what it is because I've used it before. So I'm gonna pop off. I just wanted to show you that. I'm gonna come back in just a little bit and I'm gonna pat it down. Typically when you're doing the epoxy method, it doesn't take long in order for it to dry. It probably takes no more than, I don't know, maybe 30, 45 minutes in order for it to dry. Sharonda, see, and then you wonder why I don't like you. That's the reason why we always into it. Never do this with your hand. I would never suggest doing this with your hand, by the way. But it looked like it's beginning to get a little tacky because I've got my fan on, so it kind of rushes the process. It actually speeds it up a little bit when you do the epoxy method. And I think it came out pretty decent. We do have a love-hate relationship, but it's more so hate for her. Well, I don't hate her. I hate the words that come out of her mouth. I love her because her popcorn is amazing. I'm never going to get rid of her. But I hate the words that come out of her mouth. That's just the only problem with her. I'm hopping off. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can definitely hop into my inbox. There's a few admins that's on the page that will be more than elated to assist you with whatever it is that you need. So if you have any questions, definitely inbox me and we can go from there, okay? She's like the sister I wish I never had is who Sharonda is. All right, y'all take care.